She believed she was plain, but he saw her true beauty in an unexpected, transformative moment. Clara sat at the lone wooden table in her grandmother's cozy kitchen, surrounded by stacks of books that served as her best friends. The warm, familiar scent of aged pages mixed with the faint aroma of jasmine tea, but even the comfort of home couldn't shield her from the gnawing thought that she was trapped. At 28, she felt her life was an endless loop of shelving books and attending community meetings, where the heart of her world, the library, was now under threat of closure. The horizon ahead was bleak, filled with digital distractions that threatened to make her beloved sanctuary obsolete. Deep down, she was convinced that she was plain and destined for mediocrity, dwarfed by the vibrant lives of those around her, especially her adventurous peers pursuing careers that glittered against her muted existence. Everything shifted when she heard Michael's laugh echo through the aisles one afternoon. The sound was like a vibrant splash of color invading her grayscale world. He was an old classmate, now a successful entrepreneur, returning to bury his father. Clara's heart raced, caught off guard by a mix of embarrassment and anticipation. How could someone like him, overflowing with charm and confidence, see anything in her but the echoes of their mundane school days? As he approached, his well-tailored suit contrasted sharply with her faded cardigan, igniting a surge of self-consciousness. Their encounters were a flurry of nervous exchanges, but she felt a pull toward him, especially when Michael began asking about her work at the library. Clara felt the rush of exhilaration when she spoke about curating reading experiences, the way books could ignite passion and change lives. Still, an internal whisper questioned if he truly appreciated her, or was it mere nostalgia? She fought against the tightening clench in her chest as she wrestled with insecurity. Did the spark she felt translate into anything real, or was she just a passing interest for him? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. As the days turned to weeks, Clara and Michael's collaboration grew, but so did her fears. At a contentious community meeting thick with skepticism, Clara stood at the forefront with her notes trembling in her hands. The doubts in the room cascaded like a wave, swallowing her determination. As she stood, waiting for her turn to speak, she felt the weight of every skeptical gaze probing her inadequacy. Silence stretched to an agonizingly uncomfortable. Her mind raced with the possibilities of failure. Then, during a moment of chaos, Michael stood up. The confident smile she had grown to admire was directed at her as he passionately extolled Clara's strengths, framing her quiet love for the library as a lifeline for the community. The applause that followed felt surreal, like a spotlight illuminating her unacknowledged dreams. Yet doubt lingered like an unwelcome shadow. Could she accept this adulation? Was she worth his endorsement? Or was she merely a whimsical choice for him? Clara was torn. Gratitude mingled painfully with her nagging insecurities. The validation was intoxicating, but now it was intertwined with the dread of soon facing the truth of who she was. Her heart raced as they all turned to her, expectantly, waiting for her to respond. But she felt the familiar vice of self-doubt grip her. Would she finally step into her own story, or retreat once more into the quiet confines of her existence, forever wrestling with the thought that her plainness overshadowed any strength she might have? With each reduced heartbeat, the weight of her internal conflict hung like a cloud, foreboding and imminent, whispering that a decision was looming. Clara stood on the brink, divided between the clarity of her awakening and the alluring safety of her familiar mediocrity. Would she take that leap into the light? The silence hummed with unanswered questions, binding her to the moment and forcing her to confront whether she could ever believe in her worthiness. The air in the room shifted as Clara found herself at a crossroads, the weight of every scrutinizing gaze pressing down on her. The silence felt suffocating, and for an instant she wished to shrink into the backdrop of dusty bookshelves. But Michael's unwavering gaze was a lifeline, urging her to step into the light he had illuminated. "Thank you," she finally breathed, her voice barely a whisper. The acknowledgment was barely enough to quell the storm brewing inside her, but it was a start. In the days that followed, Clara's mind echoed with Michael's praises, but the insecurities that had haunted her reawoke in the stillness of night. Could she transform this fleeting moment of validation into something lasting? The library felt alive again, but it was Clara who remained paralyzed, achingly aware of the dissonance between the support she received and her own self-perception. She began to push herself, arranging book readings and seeking collaborations, testing the waters beyond her comfort zone. Each small victory was laced with a painful reminder that she still perceived herself as the same girl stumbling through life, misunderstood and invisible. One afternoon, Clara noticed a vibrant flyer advertising a local writer's workshop. The idea of attending sent shockwaves of terror rippling through her. Writers were bold creators, stirring emotions, crafting worlds. The imposter syndrome clawed at her. What could I possibly learn there? The external contrast between the workshop's vibrant community and her isolation became unbearable. But then, in a moment of radical resolve, she signed up, her fingers trembling over the keyboard as she hit submit. This was a decision to confront her fears. When the day arrived, Clara walked into the cafe that hosted the workshop, the sounds of animated conversation amplifying her anxiety. Each seeking face felt foreign, and she was certain they could see her uncertainty shimmering like a neon sign above her head. The instructor, a poised woman with thoughtful eyes, engaged the group immediately, her enthusiasm infectious. Clara felt herself drawn in, cautiously at first, listening as stories of profound self-expression filled the room. Something flickered inside her, a spark of identification with the struggle for authenticity and acceptance. As the class began to share their writings, Clara's heart raced. She feared her own simplicity would pale against the bold narratives swirling through the room. But curiosity clawed at her, and with the encouragement of the instructor, she mustered the courage to read a piece she had penned about her love for the library and the forgotten stories it housed. Her hands shook as she spoke, but as she finished, she dared to look into the faces around her. They leaned in, nodding with understanding and intrigue. The moment felt electric. Suddenly, she was no longer just a bystander in her narrative, but a character of depth and passion. Feedback flooded in, strangers relating to her connection to literature. What she had thought was plain had resonated truthfully, reflected back to her in their words. This unexpected recognition began to sow seeds of self-acceptance, replacing her doubts with glimmers of potential. Could she forge a path that celebrated both her passions and herself? In the quiet aftermath of the workshop, Clara found a renewed sense of empowerment. Perhaps she hadn't been plain after all. Perhaps she simply had needed to align with the right environment to witness her own beauty. But before she could fully embrace this emerging identity, Michael reached out again, wanting to collaborate on a project that could possibly alter the future of the library. In that moment, Clara stood once more on the precipice of decision, unsure if she was ready to step into a partnership with the very person who had inspired her transformation. Would she take a leap of faith into the unknown, where her fears and aspirations intertwined? Or retreat to what was comfortable but ultimately stifling? A new challenge loomed ahead, poised to test every ounce of confidence she was slowly reclaiming. Clara sat at her kitchen table, the afternoon sun filtering through the window, casting warm patterns across her notepad filled with scribbled ideas about the library project. Each word, though brilliant in its potential, was shrouded by a growing cloud of doubt. She had just received Michael's message, his excitement palpable in the screen's blue glow. Yet despite the enthusiasm tinged with admiration for her recent development, she felt a creeping fear. What if she failed? The momentary validation from the writer's workshop flickered in her mind, yet that joy felt like a distant shore. She remained adrift, anxious about joining forces with someone she had placed on a pedestal. Taking a breath, Clara closed her eyes, envisioning the vastness of the library, alive with voices and stories just waiting to be uncovered. There, amidst the shelves, she felt a rising tide of confidence, reminding her of her blossoming identity. Perhaps collaborating with Michael didn't have to mean relinquishing her newfound sense of self. She needed to prepare, to define what contribution she could offer. If she could articulate her vision, she could assert her place in the partnership, instead of lurking in its shadow. Clara picked up a pen and began drafting her ideas, channeling a blend of her heart and intellect into a coherent plan. As she wrote, she could hear her own voice, the one that had found strength in vulnerability. The words flowed, each sentence carving deeper into the essence of what she believed the project could achieve. A community space revolving around literature and creativity, merging the library with local voices and stories. Through the haze of self-doubt, she glimpsed a shift in her perspective. This could be her moment to shine, not as a backdrop to Michael's vision, but as a co-creator. The realization rippled through her, piercing the fog that had engulfed her for far too long. Later that evening, Clara decided not just to respond to Michael, but to confront her fears directly. In her email, she articulated her ideas, infusing them with enthusiasm, detailing her vision alongside her willingness to collaborate. It was a statement of intent, a commitment to herself, and a promise to embrace her potential. She hit send, and a tremor of exhilaration accompanied it. What if this decision changed everything? But as the feeling of empowerment washed over her, so did uncertainty. Clara wrestled with the scenario of sharing her stance in person. Would he appreciate her contributions, or would he see her as an imposter? In the days that followed, Clara immersed herself in research, searching for inspiration. She read through books on community engagement, browsed articles on transformative library spaces, and connected with other local authors. She began to draft a presentation for their first meeting, wanting to ensure she communicated her vision with clarity. The more she researched, the more she found unexpected connections between her strengths and what the library could offer the community. Her love for stories, the threads linking lives and experiences, became the cornerstone of her proposal. It wasn't merely about the library, it was about creating a collective narrative that could propel the community into shared creativity. The day arrived for their meeting, and Clara's heart raced. Would Michael respond positively? She rehearsed her presentation the night before, crafting every detail until she felt comfortable. When she arrived at the library, memories of her earlier insecurities surged, but she was determined. As she entered the conference room and Michael greeted her with a warm smile, Clara took a deep breath. The walls of the room seemed to amplify her voice, challenging her to assert her worth. She presented her ideas, passion spilling forth as she spoke enthusiastically about each concept. Michael listened intently, his expression one of intrigue, encouraging her with nods. But then, as she glanced away, anticipation coiling in her gut, she caught sight of a hesitance in his eyes. "Clara, this is a solid proposal, but—" His voice trailed off, and her heart sank. The moment hung heavy in the air, charged with uncertainty as she awaited the truth. What challenge lay ahead that could shift the course of her journey yet again? Clara's breath caught in her throat. Michael's hesitation dripped like treacle, thick and slow, weighing heavily in the atmosphere between them. Fragments of dread coiled around her thoughts, each one tugging at her resolve, urging her to retract her daring forward leap. What did he see that she didn't? She clung tenaciously to her purpose, even as self-doubt crept back into view. "Clara," he resumed, "your proposal has great elements, but I wonder if we should simplify the focus. Expansion can come later, but first we need to establish a strong foundation." His words felt like a pinprick to her balloon of excitement, and she fought against the urge to defend every intricate detail she had woven. "Do you think clarity would help?" she asked, carefully managing each syllable, fearful of letting desperation bleed through. "Absolutely, but I also think that we might want to consider narrowing our goals for the launch. It's better to start small and build momentum," he suggested, his tone calm yet authoritative. As Clara processed his suggestion, uncertainty coiled tighter around her. Simplifying meant discarding some of the passionate ideas she loved. Finding common ground became an uphill battle, straddled by her instinct to fight for every detail she believed in. She realized that his advice wasn't dismissive, but a new challenge, pushing her into uncharted territories of collaboration. "Let's try creating a step-by-step approach, Clara. What would be a key first step in your vision?" He leaned forward, a curious spark igniting in his eyes. Taking a moment, Clara felt the weight of imposed confinement slip away. Stripping back her proposal felt terrifying, yet also liberating. Yes, she could refine her ideas. This was not about dilution. It could be an opportunity to distill her passion into something more potent. "I think starting with a storytelling night would encapsulate our goals without overwhelming our audience," she said, inwardly cringing at the initial simplicity of the suggestion. "It can showcase local authors and cultivate a sense of community." Michael's gaze shifted thoughtfully as he mulled over the idea. "That's tangible. It gives us a focal point, something actionable to present." As they began discussing actionable steps, Clara felt adrenaline coursing through her veins, energizing her. Each deliberate word she spoke now served a dual purpose. Not only was she advocating for her vision, but she was also crafting a newfound partnership with Michael, playing to each other's strengths. Yet a nagging voice lingered in the recesses of her mind. Was she truly relinquishing her identity by prioritizing these steps? Would she still be Clara, the passionate advocate for widespread transformative stories, if their shared vision thinned to mere storytelling nights? With each back-and-forth exchange, Clara began to embrace the idea of adaptability. The strength of collaboration didn't stem from erasing unique voices, but rather reshaping them into a cohesive narrative. However, the final task loomed. A presentation to their local library board loomed ahead, another test of her confidence. Despite her momentum, Clara felt a chill creep through her, undercutting the excitement. The vulnerability of presenting her ideas, now restructured, rattled her still wavering sense of self-worth. Where was the line between collaboration and submission? Her thoughts spun as she left the conference room, uncertainty creeping back in tangible waves. The goal was no longer just about drafting a proposal. It was about standing firm in her identity as the partnership evolved. As she turned the corner, Clara's resolve strengthened. She would approach this next challenge as an awakening, a pivotal moment to find her voice among the many threads they would weave together. But could she maintain her presence without losing herself entirely in this new chapter? The question hung in the air like a promise of impending resolve, waiting for the next moment to challenge her further. Would it bring clarity, or would it drown her through the depths of self-discovery? Clara breathed in the late afternoon air, trying to draw strength from the bustling surroundings. The library loomed ahead, its brick facade both comforting and intimidating. Each footstep felt like an echo of a racing heartbeat, and she couldn't shake the nagging sense that the upcoming presentation could either clarify or shatter her newly formed partnership with Michael. As she stepped inside, the familiar smell of aged books and polished wood enveloped her, yet it did little to calm her jittery nerves. This was not just about slinging ideas together. It required articulating her altered vision in a manner that resonated with the board. She was on the brink of a test that would cement or crumble her identity in this joint endeavor. Clara found a secluded table, spreading her notes before her as if they were talismans. Lists and sketches populated the pages, remnants of ideas that had once come tumbling out in a frenzy of passion. But now, alongside them, were revisions guided by Michael's pragmatic wisdom, a blend that had inevitably reshaped her vision. She couldn't ignore that each crossed-out line felt like a slice through her conviction. Her phone buzzed, breaking her focus. A text from Michael. "Remember, it's our vision together. You've got this." The words were meant to reassure, yet they also amplified her uncertainty. Was she truly prepared to share credit in the evolution of this project? Or was she chasing the elusive dream of collaboration, all while losing what made her passionate? The looming hour arrived, and Clara was called to present. She walked up to the podium, feeling the weight of expectant gazes boring into her. For a moment she was paralyzed, questioning if she could find both her voice and her place in this co-created narrative. Then she began to speak, the weight of her proposal coupled with the essence of her identity settling in her tone. As she navigated through her restructured plan, she began to notice a shift. The presentation was no longer merely words. It was a conversation, a shared exploration with the board members, a chance to inspire interest in this storytelling initiative. With every question posed, she felt herself becoming bolder, merging her enthusiasm with the adaptability she had begrudgingly embraced. Then came the moment of inquiry. Clara paused, feeling a flicker of energy surge within her as she fielded a question about the intent behind the storytelling night. "It's about connection," she declared, her voice stronger than she anticipated. "These stories serve as conduits, drawing people into the narratives we sometimes overlook." The board members leaned forward, intrigued. She found herself weaving influences from her earlier drafts and Michael's strategies seamlessly, forging an unexpected yet powerful narrative that aligned their thoughts into a more profound vision. As she concluded, applause erupted. Clara felt an exhilarating rush, but underneath it lay a pulsating fear. Had she truly honored her original intent? As the group mingled, congratulating her, Clara felt that familiar unrest creep back. Michael approached first, pride illuminating his expression. "You nailed it. You've got a unique gift, Clara." "Only because of your input," she replied, feeling a twinge of uncertainty lacing her words. "True, but it doesn't take away from what you brought to the table." His reassurance flickered an ember of self-acceptance within her. Perhaps she was in the process of defining herself anew, not erasing the past. Yet, as the evening waned, Clara found herself pondering the next challenge ahead. Now that she had navigated vulnerability on a public stage, she would need to face the internal challenge of trusting herself amidst collaboration. Was she truly ready to embrace the next stage, or would the tug of her former identity hold her back? The air hummed with possibility, and Clara knew the real test lay just beyond this moment of triumph. Would she confront her fears or shy away from the evolving narrative of herself? The uncertainty loomed like a thundercloud above her, ready to unleash the storm within. The moment Clara stepped out of the library, a chill wind whipped past her, carrying away the warmth of applause that still echoed in her ears. The evening air felt heavier now, pregnant with unaddressed thoughts. Clara's newfound confidence was almost intoxicating, yet shadows of doubt clung tenaciously to her heels. Had she merely scratched the surface, or was she yet to uncover her true potential? Each step away from the building felt suffused with an urge to break free, yet rooted in the fear of losing her footing. The week that followed her presentation was a melange of exhilaration and introspection. As Michael and she continued to refine their project, she found herself grappling with the implications of collaborative success. Every brainstorming session revealed a piece of her identity, both enhanced and diluted by his presence. They spent hours dissecting audience feedback, and Clara often sensed that Michael could intuit her every thought before she conveyed it. Yet in these moments she frequently caught herself retracting into the familiar shell of self-doubt. There were times when Michael's strategic insights felt like an erasure of her own ideas, which often led to emotional whiplash. The duality of collaboration was increasingly palpable, pulling her into two conflicting directions: the desire to flourish through partnership and the instinct to regroup into her shell, where ideas were hers alone. One afternoon, while brainstorming in Michael's office, Clara spotted a poster that hung crookedly in the corner. It showcased a far-off landscape, its vivid colors striking against the dull walls. The image resonated deeply, conjuring a vision of the individual journey she felt slipping from her fingers. A burning thought ignited. Why did she feel adrift? She had succeeded in presenting a refined idea, yet was the price her individuality? As those thoughts festered, she found herself revisiting her artistic roots. On an impulsive whim, she decided to sketch again, something she hadn't done in years. The strokes of charcoal felt foreign but liberating against the blank canvas. With every line, Clara poured out her hesitation, her joys, and the contrasting sense of fragmentation. As her picture emerged, a scene of interconnected stories began to unfold. Yet it mirrored her internal conflict, a tableau of collaboration marrying solitude, the elegance of shared experiences clashing with the instinct to withdraw. Michael's approach to support was more collaborative than she had anticipated. He could see when she was lost within herself, and instead of pushing her further, he suggested they each take a separate morning to flesh out ideas independently. This led her to reconsider her place. What did she truly want the collaborative project to say about her? What stories did she want to tell, ones that resonated with both of them, yet felt authentically hers? The morning after her first independent session, Clara approached the shared workspace with renewed determination. She carried a portfolio filled with sketches and ideas. At that moment, she realized she needed to present not just a plan, but a piece of herself. It would be the convergence of her artistic instincts and Michael's practical vision, encapsulating trust rather than ownership. As they convened to discuss her sketches, Michael looked up from the table. His eyes held a glimmer of curiosity, but beneath that lay a flicker of something deeper: anticipation? It drove Clara to question herself once more. Was this the moment of truth? Would she step fully into the unknown, merging her artistic voice with the project? Heart pounding, Clara saw the weight of potential in the air. She hesitated, gathering each thought crystallizing at the tip of her tongue, ready to spill forth the long-burdened complexities that had consumed her. Michael, I think, began, but paused again, feeling the weight of her emerging identity chase her from the shadows. How she moved forward from here could reshape everything she had worked to define. The crossroads before her bristled with energy. Would Clara relinquish control in pursuit of a shared vision, or would she reclaim her individuality, carving firmly into their collaborative narrative? A balance between her story and the new one crafted alongside Michael. The dichotomy loomed before her. The uncertainty throbbed. Would she find a way to honor both her past artistry and her present partnership? Or would this moment spiral her back into the silence she'd fought so hard to overcome? With a sharp intake of breath, Clara steeled herself against the encroaching doubt. Mental images of her sketches danced before her, vibrant and daring, like a flicker of light against a dark canvas. "Michael, I think these sketches represent what I've been grappling with, the balance between collaboration and individuality, she finally declared, her voice steady despite the tremors of uncertainty that coursed through her. Michael leaned forward, his interest piqued. I can see that. So, in your vision, you're highlighting the interplay between our styles. His eyes sparkled with understanding, yet Clara sensed the undercurrent beneath his inquiry, a silent challenge. Would she retreat to safety, or could she articulate the nuances that ultimately defined her? Yes, it's not just about merging ideas, it's about creating something that reflects both of us, she replied, fueled by both fear and an undeniable thrill. But I want my voice to resonate in it. I don't want to lose what I stand for. There it was, the pivotal moment she'd long feared. The desire to present herself was held in a taut line with vulnerability, each inch fraught with the potential to shatter or solidify her newfound confidence. Clara caught Michael's gaze, searching for affirmation, but all she found was the sincerity of a collaborator who was as invested in her individual journey as he was in their collective project. As they delved deeper into her sketches, Clara discovered a thrilling shift within herself. Michael didn't merely nod along. He engaged with each concept, questioning, encouraging, and challenging. The brainstorming session transformed from a solitary struggle to a collective exploration. His excitement fueled her passion, and with every idea discussed, Clara felt a part of herself gaining ground in the intricate tapestry of their work. Yet, as the discussion blossomed, Clara grappled with the realization that cooperation demanded a delicate dance. Each warm spark of creativity brought her closer to a harrowing thought. Was she truly as open to sharing her vision as she believed? The contrast between her inclination towards individuality and her commitment to collaboration began presenting itself as less of a conflict and more of a profound evolution. Ideas she initially considered fragile now grew into a recognition that collaboration could serve as a catalyst for her personal growth. By the time they wrapped up for the day, an invigorating tension simmered in the air. Clara scrutinized sketches sprawled across the table, her heart racing. There was something rich and raw about the melding of their ideas, yet the shadows of insecurity still threatened to overshadow her newfound resolve. Would the real Clara emerge stronger from this fusion, or get lost amidst Michael's dominance? "Let's get together again tomorrow," Michael suggested, breaking Clara from her thoughts. The enthusiasm in his voice felt infectious. "We can build on these ideas and incorporate more of your vision. I'm excited to see where we can take this." Unafraid of pushing boundaries, a whisper of anticipation threaded through Clara. For the first time since her career's inception, she felt not just seen, but truly understood. "Yes, let's," she breathed, emboldened by the prospect of collaborative discovery. As Clara stepped out, the evening air felt charged, alive with possibility. Her heart swelled with hope. Had she finally edged closer to a resolution regarding her identity? In that moment, she knew that she stood not at the precipice, but as the architect of both her story and the partnership blossoming between them. But one question loomed larger than any of her fears. Could she channel this transformative experience into a statement that would echo her essence instead of fading beneath the shadows of someone else's vision? Clara paused, letting the doubts tumble around in her mind as she walked down the street, just as uncertain as before, yet now, perhaps, a step closer to defining herself on her own terms. The challenge remained. How could she ensure that the vibrant colors of her uniqueness wouldn't disappear among the harmony of their blended visions? Clara awoke the next morning with an urgency pulsing through her veins. The sunlight streamed through her window, drawing her out of her slumber, and for the first time in what felt like ages, she reached for her sketchbook with anticipation rather than reluctance. Today's meeting with Michael loomed over her mind like a canvas waiting for its first stroke of color. Seated at her small kitchen table, Clara sipped her coffee, skimming her sketches from the previous day. The images that had once seemed fragile were now imbued with a sense of potential. Yet, as she studied them, uncertainty curled around her thoughts. How could she present her evolving vision without losing the individuality she clung to? The blending of their styles felt like territory both thrilling and treacherous. The morning breeze ruffled the pages of the sketchbook, echoing the internal turmoil she felt. Each page was a battleground of the emotions she grappled with: fear, inspiration, and an ironclad determination to assert her voice. As she drew in a deep breath, she vowed today would be the day she confronted her insecurities head-on. Arriving at their meeting spot, Clara's heart raced. Michael was already there, seated at a cafe table, poring over yet another sketch. His face lit up as she approached, a stark contrast to the swirling doubts in her mind. "Hey, Clara," he said, enthusiasm bubbling in his words. "I've been working on some concepts to integrate with your ideas from yesterday. I think there's something really solid here." Clara smiled, but beneath her facade, trepidation lingered. Could she offer her thoughts? Would he listen with the same attention he had shown before? "Great, I can't wait to see them," she replied, her voice steady as she took a seat. However, when Michael leaned forward to spread out his sketches, a quick pang of anxiety twisted in her gut. The designs exuded the strength of his vision, showcasing his prowess, but Clara felt a flicker of doubt about her own contributions. "Let's merge our ideas with this structure," Michael suggested, pointing at his sketches. "I love the way your work captures emotion, but I think it could use a bolder foundation." At those words, Clara's breath caught. Bolder? The very word tore through her insecurities, exposing a deeper fear. In her attempt to balance collaboration with her own identity, was she ready to truly stand behind her perspective? Or would this foundation smother her unique essence? "Bolder, yes, but also softer in its approach," she began, her voice gaining strength. "What if we incorporate softer hues that echo the emotion in my work alongside the strength of your structure? It could create a contrast that's dynamic yet harmonious." "Interesting. I hadn't thought of it that way," Michael nodded, tilting his head in contemplation. "Let's explore that further. Your voice is essential to this, Clara." With each exchange, Clara felt walls crumble, her mind sliding to the rhythm of discovery. They worked through sketches together, defining every detail. As ideas flowed, Clara emerged not just as a contributor, but as an equal architect of their shared vision, wielding her experience and freshness with pride. As time slipped by, Clara caught fire, sketching and experimenting freely, no longer crippled by fear of overshadowing. The process revealed another layer of her capabilities, something powerful simmering within her that had long been suppressed. She discovered that her uniqueness didn't just enhance collaboration, it could redefine it. But when the session drew to a close, a new realization gnawed at her, a weight that mirrored the liberation she felt. Yesterday's apprehensions resurfaced, casting a shadow despite her progress. Was her voice truly strong enough to navigate the unfolding partnership? "Clara, I believe this could be something incredible," said Michael, breaking her reverie. The warmth of his encouragement gave her a moment to breathe, yet doubts still flickered in the corners of her mind. "What if this collaboration gets too intertwined?" she questioned, a hint of vulnerability lacing through her tone. "Then we will find a way to make both our voices resonate," he assured her, looking sincere. Clara contemplated those words as she packed her materials. She realized the responsibility lay in her hands as much as Michael's, but the path ahead had become illuminated by her own determination. As she stepped back into the world outside, the weight of her earlier hesitation pressed against her chest. Could she truly embrace this partnership without succumbing to the shadows of self-doubt? She paused, making her way down the street, the lingering question echoing in her mind. Could her journey of self-discovery intertwine with Michael's skilled guidance, sculpting a narrative that was distinctly her own? There was much left to explore, and time was an ally but also a looming challenge. The clock was ticking on her opportunity to establish her artistic identity. Clara walked down the bustling sidewalk, her mind racing with a mix of excitement and anxiety. Each step felt heavier, grounded by the weight of her aspirations. Despite the glow of creativity ignited during her meeting with Michael, doubt fluttered through her thoughts like shadows dancing at dusk. What did it mean for her artistry if she leaned too much on his influence? She stepped into a small park, seeking solace beneath a sprawling oak tree. The branches stretched outward, casting intricate shadows on the grass, a reflection of the tangled thoughts swirling in her head. As she took a seat on a bench, Clara opened her sketchbook again, searching for clarity in the chaos. The sketches now felt alive, each stroke echoing a facet of her evolving identity. Suddenly, her phone buzzed, breaking her concentration. It was a message from Michael. "Hey, just wanted to say I'm really feeling positive about our project. Let's meet again tomorrow to refine some ideas. What do you think?" The invitation was encouraging, yet an underlying wave of nervousness crashed over her. Would tomorrow's meeting rekindle her earlier doubts, or would it reinforce her growth? It didn't take long for her fingers to begin typing a response. "Absolutely, I think we can make it even stronger." After hitting send, Clara's mind turned to the challenge ahead. The sense that this collaboration could transform her work into something greater was profound, yet the fear of losing herself in the process loomed larger. She couldn't deny the impact Michael had on her artistic vision, but was it too much to allow? With an inward sigh, she resolved to approach their next meeting with a renewed mindset. She wouldn't merely adapt to Michael's ideas, she would contribute to them with fervor. But how? How could she maintain a balanced expression of her own identity while embracing a shared vision? As dusk descended, casting hues of gold and lavender across the skyline, inspiration struck. Clara suddenly recalled moments of her childhood, how she'd transformed mundane objects into art. She began sketching again, picturing a series of pieces reflecting her emotional journey, the juxtaposition of fragility and strength, doubt and empowerment. Maybe the response wasn't about competing with Michael, it was about weaving her authenticity into their shared tapestry. The park around her felt alive, inspiring her to break the boundaries she had unnecessarily set. Here she found echoes of her confidence, wrapped in memories and revelations. As the night deepened, she sketched feverishly, confident that tomorrow would not just be another meeting, but a moment to craft and reclaim her narrative. However, a singular question remained. How would Michael respond to this new direction? As she packed up her materials, Clara felt a growing conviction emerge. This project could become a conduit for her voice, solidifying her place in the artistic conversation without diluting her essence. She would need to prepare herself for potential pushback, but she felt ready to confront whatever came next with fortitude. With her heart pounding, she stepped away from the park, resolved to manifest her vision alongside Michael's strengths. But just as she turned onto the main street, a flash of doubt crossed her mind. What if he dismissed her initiatives, seeing them as too radical or misplaced? Clara hesitated, letting the world around her fade as she deliberated the implications. She realized that navigating this partnership was as much about vulnerability as it was about strength. It was her responsibility to safeguard her voice while forging ahead. Tomorrow would be transformative, but first she had to face the unknown, a confrontation not just with Michael's ideas, but with her own fears. The canvas of their collaboration was blank, and the timing could not be more critical. She took a deep breath, fueled by a sense of purpose and anticipation. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, Clara couldn't shake the feeling that she stood on the precipice of a breakthrough. one that could define not only her relationship with Michael, but her entire artistic journey. Was she truly prepared for the confrontation that awaited? Clara took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her transformative journey settle comfortably on her shoulders as she walked into the library on the day of the big presentation. The creative whirlwind she had entered with Michael had echoed her own aspirations. Today was not just about showcasing their project, it was a testament to her growth and an opportunity to assert her newfound confidence. As she entered the meeting room, she glimpsed familiar faces from the library board, people who had often been sources of doubt in her path. Yet she felt an unusual calm as she approached the podium, each step strengthening her resolve. This was not the Clara who had once felt plain and unheard. This was a Clara who had embraced both her individuality and her partnership with Michael. When she began to present their vision for the storytelling initiative, her vision, something remarkable happened. Clara seamlessly wove her passion for literature and community into the fabric of their proposal. Every line was a manifestation of her journey, blending vibrant sketches with strategic insights garnered from her collaboration with Michael. She felt the board members leaning in, not merely attentive, but eager to connect with the narrative she painted. Stories are not simply words, she asserted, finding her voice ringing with newfound authenticity. They are the heartbeat of a community. By sharing local voices, we aren't just relaying information, but igniting connections that enrich lives. As she spoke, the tension that had once frazzled her began to morph into a palpable energy, a lightness that inspired a wave of enthusiasm around her. With each thoughtful response from the board, Clara realized they were not just acknowledging her presence, they recognized her authorial grip on their shared vision. As she concluded, the applause erupted. The unexpected warmth pulsed through her, filling every part of her with validation. The weight of self-doubt lifted entirely as she took in the jubilant expressions surrounding her. Her words had made an impact, one that echoed her awakening. As the meeting ended, Michael approached her, brimming with pride. "Clara, that was incredible. You commanded the room. I knew you had it in you." His admiration felt different now, not merely an encouraging whisper, but a mirror reflecting her capabilities. Here was a man who had been her collaborator, yet had always respected her voice, igniting a change within her. The transformation extended beyond the presentation. It sparked something deep within Clara. No longer bound by the invisible chains of self-doubt, she had conquered her insecurities, showcasing her competence. The library project felt less a responsibility and more of an extension of who she had become. It symbolized clarity and direction, a tangible embodiment of her creative spirit. After the meeting, Clara embraced the joyous feedback from board members. They were captivated not just by the project, but by her authentic passion, a passion that drew them into her narrative. Amidst the chatter, the director even proposed a public showcase of her sketches, a demonstration of the visions she had fostered through their collaboration. It was a recognition she had never anticipated, a solid validation of her journey not just in partnership, but as an individual. Returning home that evening, Clara felt a wave of fulfillment wash over her. She had done more than just speak. She had emerged as a thorough amalgamation of her past and present. She understood now that her uniqueness did not stand in opposition to collaboration. Rather, it enhanced and redefined it, mingling her voice beautifully within the larger narrative. Clara opened her sketchbook to find the sketches she had poured her essence into. They were not merely reflections of her journey, they now encapsulated a vision that resonated with clarity and confidence. Each stroke told a story of resilience, courage, and embracing one's true self. In that moment, Clara felt undeniably proud. She had stepped into the light, shedding the shadows of insecurity, reclaiming every piece of herself she had ever doubted. The library project was not only a professional achievement, but a personal victory, evidence of her growth, her strength, and the beauty that lay in recognizing her worth. The journey had taught her the importance of collaboration, not as a threat to individuality, but as a platform to illuminate it. Clara had blossomed, finally feeling assured in her space within both her community and her own narrative. As she penned her closing thoughts in the sketchbook, she knew she had achieved something grand. Not only had she proven her worth to others, but she had learned to see and value herself. The chapter was complete. Clara was no longer just the girl who believed she was. She had become a woman of substance, insight, and authenticity, ready to embrace every future challenge and use her voice as vibrant and capable as she had always imagined it to be. Now, as a critical moment unfolds, there's something vital you need to do to feel the pulse of this inspiring journey. You need to subscribe now and join this community of extraordinary tales. Your support is crucial. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others discover these transformative stories. Don't hesitate. Comment your reactions and theories about Clara's incredible journey. And this is the moment to show your support. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how determination transforms lives. Each action counts, and you could be part of the next chapter in our story.